Well, it's good to see you.
I wonder how it looks like, because when I'm looking at your face on my screen, my camera is down, so now I am looking like at you probably.
Yeah, I realized a long time ago that the way to make it look like eye contact is to look into the camera. Because if you look at the actual person's eyes, it doesn't look like eye contact. You have to look into the little camera to make it look like eye contact. But you can't both look into each other's eyes at the same time if you do that. Yeah, it's not exactly the same as in person, but but even things like energetic transmission can, occur non-locally. So it's not like there's any limit there on that side of things. But even the transmission of clarity, I guess, or the resonance with clarity. I don't know how it's different ways to look at it, but it's kind of like a resonance. The other day, someone was talking to me in terms of, mirror neurons. So someone's in the non-dual state and they interact with someone, the other person might something.
Notice some silly things in rainbows, I think. Have you been treated like a megalomaniac or whatever?
Yeah, that group can be kind of a roller coaster.
No, it's too much. Sometimes I read a little bit something, but not really a lot. I don't follow a lot. If I wanted to follow a lot, I would be sitting at my, doing only that. It's like the YouTube nothing interviews.
Yeah.
So many, I just can't keep up.
Yeah.
Impossible.
Yeah, me too. I mean,
so much time on Facebook and co.
Yeah. Yeah, I love Nothing FM, but there's so many interviews that I have a day job, I don't have time to spend 8 hours watching videos. It'd be nice if I could, but yeah, I should probably get outside more, spend a little less time on Facebook. That's part of the reason I'm trying to do Zoom calls and things, is to kind of get away from Facebook and mix up the media of the message. Some people click better with different formats. So if there's more formats out there, maybe more of this will slip into place, even though
I think maybe
it's not how it works. But
it's just better to get out from home and go for a walk.
yeah, and see the sky and get some fresh air and sunlight. Yeah, definitely. I need to.
Have you seen? I had to go to the physio today today, so I went out a little bit. But otherwise, it's really cold. It was full of snow this morning.
It's
Again,
actually warming up here.
it is. Yeah, you're on t-shirt, aren't you?
Yeah.
Where are you, Jogi? Ah, you're.
I'm in Iowa. It's the kind of smack dab in the middle of the country.
Mhm. I was only in New York and in San Francisco, in Hawaii, in the States. I have no idea how it is in the middle of the country.
Yeah.
And you
Kind of
know,
boring.
they are not the USA. San Francisco, Hawaii, New Jersey, there. It's not the USA.
Yeah, there's a diversity here, that's for sure. You know, it's the first conglomerate of nations. In every other part of the world, the word state means nation. So this is the first united nations. And I believe that this is a personal ego belief, but I believe in about 200 years or so, the world will be, one government, the United Nations of Earth, and basically the United States will surrender into the UN.
It might be, but I think it really needs aliens, bad aliens, to come and help.
Bad aliens.
No, they just have to come and say boo. And that's all.
They
What
might have already come, yeah, and they might be humans from the future. And
this strange sort of monkeys.
yeah, what was it?
Or maybe
Was
they have without that we know it, because they could
probably. I mean, there's something going on that they don't understand and they're spooked by. They may or may not interpret it as aliens. Another one of my ego personal beliefs is that the so-called aliens, the so-called gray aliens, are evolved humans from the future, kind of like anthropologists coming back to we're the cavemen type of deal. Where the ancestors are coming back to witness and check out different historical events.
I
But
don't know. I wonder. I'm rather. I actually. I don't know. I don't really believe it, but I think that there is a certain. I think that actually other civilizations are possible.
sure, yeah,
It is such an endless big thing that so
yeah,
planets and that is possible.
yeah. I think that's the universe is probably teeming with life,
Yeah.
but the life that's checking us out really has no motive to do so whatsoever unless it's us. So the ones that are interacting with us, I feel there's a very high logical likelihood that it's humans from the future. But these are personal, fun, ego-based beliefs. This is the
Yeah.
type of thing that seekers love. I like it too, it's still fun to play around with, but I always qualify it beforehand as I listen. This is a personal, ego-based belief. But yeah, I think it was Reagan that, I don't know if he's talking to the UN or Congress or what, but there's that old speech where he's saying, basically, if there was some threat from another world, we'd all immediately join hands, we'd all be
Yeah,
buddy buddy all of a sudden, it's
that's
like,
why I said they just have to say boo.
yeah, why would the president of the United States say something like that publicly on record while he's being recorded? Makes you wonder. Is it just a thought experiment? Maybe. Is there some shred of truth to it? Maybe.
Well, I suppose he didn't write it himself. There was
That's
some
that's a good point too. He's just a brilliant actor.
like Star Trek and go.
It's like when they say like, "Oh, I can't believe he became president. He's an actor." It's like, well, that's why he became president.
Yeah,
He's such a
yeah.
good actor. They were like, "Oh, this guy knows how to act already.
Of course,
He's
politicians.
a good puppet." Yeah, I think it's all about the Federal Reserve. I think it's why JFK was assassinated. because he was trying to end the Federal Reserve, and they didn't like that. And they're the ones that are actually in power, and they're not even a branch of our government. They're a private sector endeavor, which is kind of crazy when you think about it. They're not even a part of our government.
They are not. They are not public. The reserve has nothing public. It's not public.
It's
Because
not public. Yeah. Then you get the black budget and things.
Okay.
Yeah, we're not told very much, and what we are told is mostly fiction. It's a story to keep us busy.
Whatever can be said is
What's that?
whatever can be said is a story anyway.
Yeah, that's true. Even if we could say it perfectly, it's still a story. Even the idea that it's all a story is just a story.
Story, yeah. Whatever you can say.
Even the idea that it's all just a story is all just a story.
Stories. There are really blatant lies and some better stories.
Yeah.
Lies.
What they do is they tell you a half truth, and it has just enough truth in it on purpose that you go, oh, there's a lot of truth in that. This might be real. But they also put just enough misinformation and disinformation to intentionally misguide most of us. It's actually kind of scary how simple the human mind is. And it seems for some reason, if you say the word nothing and you say it in a Zen context, nobody gets spooked, nobody gets freaked out, nobody has a strong reaction to it. Like, oh yeah, Zen, nothing. Yeah, that's pleasant. But if you bring it up in a Neo-Advaita perspective, it seems like this spooky, dark thing. And it's like, it's the same nothing as Zen is talking about. It's just a more direct, because it's so direct, it's a little more spooky maybe.
I think also that there is this sort of aura of tradition with Zen. But okay, Advaita is also a tradition, but the Neo is sort of, it's the it's too direct. It's really too direct, and it is too scary maybe.
Yeah. It's like staring at the noon sun. It's kind of hard to do for longer than 7 seconds without damaging something. So yeah, here's a kind of a sweet spot for frustration. The seeker shouldn't be too frustrated, and they shouldn't be not frustrated enough. So the first step is just to get removed totally from the comfort zone, because our mind and our body has such a easy way of slipping into the comfort zone, and usually that comfort zone includes blinders of different types. And that type of ordinary consciousness is pleasant and desirable and stable and calm. And the awakened mind isn't that different from that. It's actually more calm, more stable, more clear, more ordinary, and yet it sounds terrifying to the mind. The mind would call it nihilism, even though it's not technically that. So there are no separate things. There are no separate individuals. And to the sense of personhood, that's abjectly terrifying. That's the scariest thought, is non-existence for most seeking ego minds. And yet, if you can become comfortable with not existing, you'll realize that no self and emptiness, the realization of that spontaneously and suddenly and directly, is liberation. What you're seeking liberation from is the sense of you that seemingly exists. It's not the body. It's not direct experience. even though direct experience doesn't exist, because there's just this background awareness that is aware of the character seemingly thinking that it's experiencing things. It's not. The character isn't experiencing anything. It doesn't even exist. There's this background awareness, this witnessing that sees all the automatic behavior arising. And there's also a distance between that perspective and any suffering anywhere. And so it's easier to sit with people that are deeply suffering without it um, affecting. And so, it's like before awakening, it's like I was too sensitive in certain ways that made me non-functional. Like I wouldn't have been able to do brain surgery or something, but now I can sit with somebody who's deeply, deeply suffering in a way that would have freaked me out before and I would have tried to avoid. And now I can just sit with it and hopefully actually have a positive effect of some kind, even though there's no cause and effect, no time.
It's really hopeless.
Yeah, it really is. Really is. Hopelessly hopeless. And that too is one of the keys. And it doesn't look like a key. It looks like a bad, scary, spooky thing I have to run and hide from and put blinders on, hide under the rug. And it's one of the keys to enlightenment. And all the keys to enlightenment, and there's only a few, are all the scariest things to the mind. It's funny that we're programmed that way to not wake up.
Yeah, it's happening. I don't know. It's really funny. Yeah, it is really. The point is that I can understand it all, and
Yeah.
there is still the feeling.
That's the strangest part about it. Yeah. The fact that you could.
Understand once you understand, and with some glimpses, it's very easy, and yet it is just structure there, and yeah, what maybe lobotomy.
To get it just right, just the right angle. I used to joke about that when I was a seeker. I'd say, if you bump your head just right, you'll become enlightened. Might not be too far from the truth. It's a very delicate, exquisite software program that's running in the hardware. And the problem isn't in the hardware in the body. There isn't and even things like genetic psychiatric disorders and things like that, like all of that is epigenetic. In other words, the genes can be flipped on and off to different degrees. And I've noticed, for example, that before awakening I had kind of like an ADHD and a bipolar tendencies. And I had talked to somebody who had gone through the shift before I had, and they were like, I was talking to them and I said, oh, you seem bipolar like me or something. And they said, well, I used to be. In other words, when the shift happened, it's not like that anymore. And I could see that in them too. And then that's kind of what happened here too. It's a disorder or a genetic predisposition is something you suffer from. And that roller coaster kind of stops. At least 90% of that just stops. So there's no identifying self. There's no one here to suffer. And this is so uniquely neutral and so focused that it kind of solves things like ADHD and bipolar, for example. Not all the way, obviously. It's still a little,
This HDAD is the when you are restless.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is
the
the
mind racing. Yeah. So awakening in a way is kind of like the exact opposite of a seizure. A seizure is when the brain's so active it gets this like a runaway train. Awakening is just a very deep quieting, a calming down of different types of brain activity, a quieting down of the magnitude of the illusion of free will, the magnitude of the illusion of self. And it's enough to see right through those things as being very clearly, evidently not the case, that they're very clearly, directly seen and realized instantly to be illusory. So it's not like there's this great amount of effort going into surfing all this. It's just riding the wave perfectly on its own. Everything's perfectly in place. There's this direct clarity speaking, and there's nobody doing any of it. The surfboard is riding itself, and the sage is just along for the ride type of deal. And that's kind of liberating too, never to have to really make a choice again. You know, the illusion apparatus is still present and functioning, and yet there's no pressure for a seeming me to seemingly decide anything. There's no thoughts occurring before these words stumble out.
Sorry, what did you say? I just didn't understand everything. English. Just the last words, the last sentence. Could you repeat it a little bit foolproof way?
Yeah, so there's enough remaining illusion of free will and self that everything gets done without there being a doer. So productive doing seemingly just flows, even though there's nobody here under the impression that there's somebody here that's under the impression that they're doing something or making choices. So it still seems like I'm making choices, but in the back of my mind, I know that's not going on.
Yeah, but it was quite clear in my little event with the car, it was just happening. Nobody was doing anything at all. And it is perfect then.
Yeah.
Really, it's perfect, yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting when you get out of the way how effortlessly everything flows the way it's designed, programmed, structured. It's like an exquisitely engineered, Swiss watch or something.
Silly. With some chocolate.
Those tiny little parts in those watches sell for so much. You
Really
could take a bar of iron and turn it into little tiny watch parts, and you can make such a fortune. Yeah, there's nobody here. And the seeker is looking for its own absence, but it's terrified of that more than anything. And so it's this impossible task to have the mind do this thing it can't do because it doesn't exist. The mind is telling itself as if it exists to do something as if it can do something, to surrender itself as if it's there and it can do that.
Yeah, completely impossible.
And like you said, you can believe this, you can understand it fully, you can know this, you can know it for sure because of the glimpses. That's a type of gnosis, a type of Gnostic direct experience, if you will, where you realize for yourself. Words are so funny. that but and then still, even then, it's not realized, and so there's this efforting occurring. There's this trying to align with it occurring. There's this trying to master life occurring. And the moment it does finally switch gears, there's no more effort really occurring. And there's this tremendous sense of conserving energy that was once wasted and things like that.
Yeah, I see. Because it's very tiring, the other thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Really huge effort.
That's what seekers say a lot. They say, I'm tired. And they'll go, yeah. And they'll go, no, you don't know what I mean by that. I'm tired. And they go, yeah. No. I'm tired of existing as a person. It's like, yeah, exactly. And you're not a person, and you don't exist as a person. That's the delusion that steals the energy.
It's really crap.
I don't know why, but that just reminded me of that old painting. It's a Chinese philosophy painting, and there's three monks, if you will, or three seekers, and they dip their finger in the vinegar and they put it in their mouth, and it's supposed to symbolize life. And to the Buddhist, it tastes sour.
This, however,
Ah.
this is
To
terrible.
the Buddhist, it tastes
You
bitter.
know,
To the Taoist, it tastes sweet.
this is very sweet, yeah. It is Arabic, Turkish, Middle East,
So
Eastern.
spices. Yeah.
No, it is actually sesame with sugar and pressed.
Oh.
Honey should be there. But they put lots of palm oil in this now. No. Do you know it? Have you tried?
I've heard of it. I've never tried it though.
Because I come from Poland originally, and we had it. It's very normal there. We had it, some of this middle, because we had contacts with Turks, and historically we had some pieces from there, and so we had. It was very normal to have it, and here in Switzerland you can get it, but it is a little bit more special. So and it is really. It's very vicious and sinful because that's what you shouldn't eat,
Simple's good.
Sugar.
Yeah, especially me. I'm a bit pudgy. I'm trying to eat whole plants. I do have to get going now, unfortunately. I was running a little late earlier, having a hard time finding all my equipment. It should have been a little more prepared, but next time, hopefully, we'll have a full session and so on and so forth.
Give you a little tip this time in this case. It's very okay for me because I have so much work that it is good. Everything is good.
It's all good. Well, hopefully we'll schedule something again soon. It's always a pleasure to talk to you.
You can talk. I'm really, I think up until 15, so I'm taken. So after that, because I'm really like this, I've got plenty of work.
Sounds good.
But it is also good to relax a little bit.
Yeah.
But, well, earning money is
space is in between. Yeah.
I'll see you.
See you later.